Yeah, this episode. The only reason why it's at the bottom is because, well, one line that really took me out of the episode. When the Doctor and Martha are in the room and the Doctor just says Rose would know what to do. I completely. Then I spent most of the rest of the episode thinking, oh, it's like the Doctor's trying to make Martha feel useless. Really? Why would you do that? This is a fun episode, this one. This I consider to be the companion light episode of Series 3 because there isn't much of Martha and it's more focused on the Doctor, and yeah, it's nice. I like how we see a different side to New Earth and new, however many New York. So this is an enjoyable episode, and that scene where the Doctor just pops through all the cars and you see just how much effort they're putting to give him everyone who's been in there. It's great. This one's an interesting one. It's nice that the Doctor finally meets Martha's family, and it's an interesting monster and an interesting premise. But the thing that most problem I have is just that guy who's only credited as the mysterious man, and Martha's mum is just really. He's only there to manipulate Martha's mum, and he doesn't really have much of an other job. He's just there to go, he's bad, you shouldn't trust him. Ooh. In fact, he probably should just go, ooh, because he comes in and out of the story pretty much like that. This is a interesting Christmas special. We've always wondered what would happen if Doctor Who does the Titanic, and we got it, and it's pretty much the Titanic. But this is an interesting one. I don't have much problem with the cast, even Rixton Slade, who is the only decent posh idiot that Doctor Who's managed. Pritchard from Under the Lake Before the Flood and Under the Lake was just really annoying. But they all had good character development. The hosts were, as I said, good villains for a Christmas special, because in a Christmas special they don't have to be that monumental. But Max is my main problem. Like, okay, he wants to sabotage the ship, but it's just the look. I was expecting a normal person, like he sabotaged the ship and he'd just pop out. I don't think he really needed to be a cyborg. I think that was just a bit over the top. This episode is a slow one, I admit. When I first saw this, I was expecting it to go a bit faster. And it's an interesting premise that the Kolfskaro are trying to make Dalek humans so they can survive. And love it that they went to New York in the Empire State Building, and just the thought of an actor who would go on to play Spider-Man was in Doctor Who. Love that thought. Anyway, all the cast do well here. Andrew Garfield, he does a good job considering he gets dragged off halfway through. And I feel like this is the Pig Slays. They could have left it at the generic primitive henchmen, but they were involved a lot more than I thought they would. Probably the most underrated episode of Series 3, 42 by Chris Chibnall. Now, this is a really enjoyable story, and I really enjoy it because when you think about it, this is about the only time the Doctor and Martha get separated, and they still got to deal with the ship being destroyed, and yet you could have just said, oh, it's just a ship failing. But Chris Chibnall actually thought about making the sun alive and possessing people, which is really clever. So it's not just the whole ship falling into a sun, the Doctor will easily save it. And I like the claustrophobia, because the sun possessors there come to be known have been worked through the crew one by one, the captain, and it actually has a personal relationship with the captain, which is interesting. And yeah, I like those stories, and the ship makes it feel claustrophobic, especially at the scenes in that escape pod. But why they had to program pub quiz questions, and just honestly, you think that they'd be doing that while they were drunk and they just live to regret it when they have to get through 30 doors. But it is a really enjoyable episode, and if you don't like this episode, please give it another chance. Now, this feels like a much bigger scale for the Daleks. They feel like they got back to how they were killing people for no reason. And this one is less about Martha or anyone, it's more about the Doctor and the Daleks, and I like those stories. And obviously it's not going to reach the standard of Dalek, it's never going to get that good. But it did a pretty good job, and I like the concept of Dalek Sec mixing with a human, and now he's becoming more human. And instead of being like the Dalek in Dalek, which blew itself up because it didn't want to be more human, he actually thinks that's the way forward, and it's interesting to see how that conflict, considering he's the leader of the cult of Skaro, and then they just say, screw you, you're human, why listen to you? And then they kill him. So, that was good, but the other human Daleks, that kind of got used a tiny bit, like just to make some tension for the final battle. And then everybody dies except Dalek Khan. And I have to admit, I was interested to see where he'd pop up next. Because knowing him, I didn't know whether he'd be the new leader of all Daleks, or he'd be discarded because he was defeated by, let's face it, their own plan. A hospital on the moon fighting a platoon of Judoon. It's crazy times. This is a great introduction to Martha, and a really good episode for the start of the series, because this is essentially the 10th Doctor's first time without Rose. He's been going around doing some stuff, and I'm guessing he was investigating the plasma or from the start, considering he was in that hospital, or he just felt like a lie down. But they all do a good job, and the only problem I have with this episode is that the end bit. This is pretty much the first time we have of Martha's family. All we know is they don't get along with her dad's new girlfriend. Her parents are split up, and now they fall out quite easily. And the brother's 21 years old. That's pretty much what we know of him throughout the entire series. This is a great episode, and I have to say, the only thing that I don't like about this episode is it goes really slow, and I didn't like it at first, but I've grown to love this episode, but I still find the pacing really slow. I don't know why, it's just the fact that it's slow is my only problem with this episode. Tell a lie, the only other problem is when Martha says that the Doctor had to go fall in love with a human and it wasn't her. That just felt shoved in there for no reason. This is a really good episode. Now, I'm not sure, but I consider this to be a kind of a Doctor Lie episode, because yes, David Tennant is in it, but he's not really the Doctor. And this just provides, it speeds up from the previous episode when they're combined really well, and it's essentially the family of blood driving John Smith into a corner, and Martha literally has to get him to become the Doctor again. And Tim is a great character, so is Joan, she's okay, and the school, nice setting, and the family of blood, they are really good villains, and I hope they come back in some form, or another family of blood come back, because I'm not sure if they're just a group of entities or they're part of a species, but it's clever how the Doctor defeats them, pretending to be John Smith and him being really clumsy and probably causing the ship to blow up by pressing all those buttons. So this is a really clever episode, and I hope they do more of them. Utopia, this is a great start to the series finale. I mean, all the characters are brilliant. Even the ones that don't appear that much you can understand. It's a great setting, the end of the universe. And Captain Jack being brought back is a great idea, just seeing him interact with the 10th Doctor and seeing the aftermath of him being left on the game station. And it's a great way that they tied into the Torchwood Series 1 finale where Captain Jack was in the hub, he hears TARDIS and runs off. So it's a great way to tie in with that. And Derek Jacobi, he could have been a great master on his own, I have to admit, but you could believe him as an innocent, kind old professor, then he goes all crazy and goes evil, which he also does really well. Then he regenerates into John Sim, who in this episode just acts like a crazy person because he's regenerated. We don't see his evil side that much in this episode, but great cliffhanger, great episode. They really handled Martha's farewell in this really good, but again, this is really Martha's episode, and Captain Jack and the Doctor take a sidestep in this. But the Master's defeat is good, and you can tell that he's taken over the Earth, and all of that's good. It's just, I get it that time rewinds itself, but I felt there could be more of a challenge in that. There could be more of a challenge to set time right again. And obviously the Master dying was well handled, and it set up something that wouldn't be resolved until the end of time, which is pretty good. Now, whether you like Love and Monsters or not, you have to admit, after that story, not many people were in favour of the whole Doctor-like stories. Until Blink came around, which I think made people love him. Because this is, I don't know which is better, this or Flatline, but the great introduction to the Weeping Angels. We have a likeable protagonist in the form of Sally Sparrow, played by Carey Mulligan. And it all seems so real, like this, you could imagine her just living next door to you and just being like, I'm investigating this old ruined house. And the way that they worked the TARDIS and the Doctor into it was brilliant. This is just amazing. Now, bearing in mind this is a second part in a 3-part finale, this is, I think, is the best part. It's got so much. We've got the payoff to the Mr. Saxon storyline. Captain Jack, the Doctor, and Martha on the run is just an amazing premise. The fact that the Master's pretty much got control of the country, killed off all the politicians, and now he's in control of the Valiant. Amazing. And this is essentially, Utopia was them figuring it out, Last of the Time Lords was them stopping it, and the Sound of Jumps is essentially it all going to hell. And you can tell that by the end. In the last 5 minutes, Master ages the Doctor, captures Captain Jack, and Martha goes on the run on her own. And even with the next time trailer, it still doesn't spoil anything. This is an amazing episode, and it's the best on the series 3. And that's it for my countdown for series 3. Next time, we've got series 4, obviously. But I won't be including the next Doctor in that, because I'm going by the box sets here. So, until then, see you next time.